Do we have any first timers here today? First stage? If you are the first timer, type in the chat. Oh, Tesla GR, welcome. Pads, awesome. Good to have you.
OC?
OK or OC? Yeah, OC. See some green names in here too, which is pretty cool. I really love how that's going.
Right.
You're not first timer. I see you.
For anyone
nice to have you back.
Not like familiar, the other titles, the other colors are for ambassadors, people who have joined or were already members of, already participants that have decided to join the social media ambassador team and try to help push, the Wingbits name, get it out there.
Yeah. It's been awesome. But I can just do a quick little status update. I mean, there's so much going on, and I just jumped from a call into this call, so I'm trying to reorganize my brain a little bit. But obviously, we've expanded the team a little bit. So you guys have seen Killian helping out with the ambassador program. So he's been here now a few weeks. Awesome to have him. We've added on some more developers on the team, which is super exciting. So now they're onboarding. So we're gonna hopefully get more and more releases. I see Killian in the call here too. So cool. Thanks for being here, Killian. Really happy to have you on the team. And got some new map launched last week. This is definitely a step in the right direction. So hopefully you guys like it. If there's something you don't like, please submit some feedback through FeatureBase, which is a new tool we have for submitting AMA questions, and suggestions, and general bug reports. So that's thanks to Mike here. Has been spending a lot of time figuring that out and setting it up. So that's working really, really nicely. On the business side, it's going well. It's going really well. We're making really good progress with our data. Had new data scientists join last week, so we're setting up a bunch of stuff that's going to help us sell the data at a way higher rate. So that's exciting, and probably have another person joining maybe next week or the week after. And then we have a really cool announcement that should be coming maybe in 2 weeks. So that can't say what it is, but that's pretty cool. So yeah, I guess that's a little brief update on what we're doing. On the tokenomics side, we're still iterating it a little bit. So we're looking at maybe making some slight adjustments that I think everyone will be happy about when we release that for kind of when we announce it, so to speak. And I know a lot of people have had some questions about the GeoSigner, the dongle. We will come out with some more info on that hopefully this week or early next week, and start collecting some addresses and stuff for everybody. So that's quite exciting as well. I think that's it. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat here, and we'll get to them in order of questions, I guess. Ticker, I wish I could tell you, but I don't want to tell you until it's done. But it's looking pretty good. So I don't see why it wouldn't be done soon.
Done. That's good.
Done. But Trika asked when mainnet. So right now, so there's essentially a few things we want to make happen before mainnet. One is obviously finalize more on the tokenomic side and on the token value flow, and release the white paper with more details, so you guys can see exactly how we're looking at things and what we're proposing. We also want to secure the network with the dongles. We want to ship those out, and that should be coming soon. So what we're looking at mainnet now is more like a January-ish date based on the time frame. But I think what's really important for us is to make sure we do it right rather than 1 month sooner, because we do have a responsibility to all of you guys here that we treat it seriously and that we have a good launch. So that's kind of how we're looking at it. So hopefully that's good enough question for now, Trika, or a good enough answer. Let's see. Geo, hey, I'm looking at your question.
What will I need to do to keep things going? Probably a dongle question.
Yeah.
Assuming you have either status of ordered or granted on your stations page. If you don't, contact us with a ticket. There's only a small handful of people, a few handfuls of people who did not order the dongle when they should and set up prior to the closing of the bring your own device phase. So we'll deal with those people on a case by case basis. But assuming you've got that stuff done, we will have a process by which you will receive the dongle. You will plug it in. You might have to do something. If it's at a host, you'll obviously have to work with the host to plug it in and move the attached antenna or connected antenna to a location where it can get decent GPS reception. And if everything goes right, it should be a really straightforward install process. We've got multiple things going in the back end, not only related to the dongle, but other stuff that is trying to streamline how our build your own device stations work. We want to bring the quality of bring your own device and how about the quality of it working without intervention up to the level as close as we can to a ready to run pre-approved device. So we're working on it. We'll release more information as we get closer, but it should be pretty straightforward. For anybody that has a host that's worried about it, it really should be something that a host could do if they're able to plug a USB item into a USB port. I know sometimes people get confused if it's upside down and they're trying to jam it in there. But if you have it right side up and you plug it in, remember that it does have a cable attached. It can be removed, but when it's connected, it will have a cable attached, and that cable will go to a small GPS puck antenna, and that just has to have decent reception. So near a window, outside if you can. They are weatherproof. We're even doing tests inside of buildings and everything to see what kind of effect it has on how long the GPS lock takes versus what kind of quality of GPS location it provides in that environment. So we're definitely running it through the paces. We'll make it as easy for you guys as we can.
Awesome. And then I think the next question is route, right, Mike?
Yes.
Can we use the GeoNet antenna with splitter to connect the future GeoSigner dongle? Are you referring to the standalone GeoNet device or the Wingbits GeoNet dual miner, or which miner are you referring to? Because if it's the standalone traditional GeoNet miner, it's a no. But you can't use the dongle on any of the new miners because you don't need it. The dongle is only for the build your own devices.
Yes. And there's just, to be clear, there's not really any interoperability. Man, that took a second to think through. Any interoperability between devices. So if you have a GeoNet set up right now, you can't use it with a build your own device. If you have a GeoNet device now, you can't use it with a WB200 together. You can have both in the same location, but they don't connect together. They don't do anything together. You can't leverage the aspect of one device into another. Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, good point. Tesla, I guess for the new hardware, it would all be embedded. Yes, everything is in one, and it's custom, so it's not that we stuck a SDR dongle in the hardware. But yeah, everything is in one on that hardware, so you don't need to add anything.
And I think one of the sites, was it HiFix? Oh, actually, there's a video. GeoNet's Twitter X. I wish we could all agree on what to call it now, because I just always say Twitter X. But they have a video from maybe a week and a half ago, that's a really good video on GeoNet and dual mining and stuff. And it's got some really cool tearaway kind of stuff. You can see some of the internal layout It's not photorealistic. It's a model, but it's cool that you can see how the whole thing is kind of put together in some regards. I would suggest anybody here who hasn't seen it to go check out their Twitter page and look for a video from not too long ago.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to check that out. I haven't seen it. Fabio asks if we can confirm that the project goal is to have 10K stations by the end of 2025. I mean, I don't think we specifically set that exact goal, but essentially what we're estimating based on if we can spread the coverage properly, around 10K stations will give us global coverage. Maybe not like optimized on a granular level, but it will give us pretty much global coverage. And at that scale, it allows you to execute much faster on the customer pipeline. So it's definitely a goal in itself, yeah. And we think, it could be reachable in 2025 if we just execute properly.
And you tell your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
To tell people not near you though. Tell people further away from you. South America.
Tell all your friends in different parts of the world.
Yes.
Let's see, GeoHey. I think I had a hex reserved, but after dongle, so wish I would ticket. Okay, perfect. Thanks, GeoHey. Yeah, just open a ticket and we can help.
Jeff is asking, with the new dongle, I have 3 stations around the world. Can they be shipped to each location? Or are we going to ship it all to one address and you have to send them out? Do you want to handle that, Robin?
Yeah, you will be able to put in separate addresses for the dongles.
But you could have it shipped all to you. Like if you want to go see the friends and family.
Yeah, exactly. It's up to you if you want all of them to one location, or, essentially when you go through the flow, it will be like for this station, type in the address you want this dongle sent to, and you could do different addresses for all of them or one for all of them. It's up to you. Gacho asks, are you aiming for a certain level of coverage before mainnet, or is that's not a determining factor? So it's kind of like, how to put this? I do think there's some benefits to reaching global coverage before mainnet, simply because we could execute on more of our pipeline. But it's not like an absolute determining factor either. I think there's a balance, but based on what we see now in the pre-sales and how it's going, we'll be at a nice level of coverage by beginning of the year, and we think that's a good balance.
Yeah, keep in mind when you look at the map right now, the new map that you can see on the main Wingbits page, not under the dashboard, which we've mentioned in Discord, we'll have a whole new thing at some point. That map shows all the station locations across the globe, but a significant number of those, non-insignificant number of those, are pre-ordered approved devices. So you can kind of see now how those will start to fill out as they come online once the devices are shipped. So just for anybody who hasn't been keeping up and isn't sure, yes, the map does show reserved locations as well. When you click on them, it will say either somebody's been offline for 7 days or this is a reserved location. There's a lot out there right now that are from approved device orders that hopefully sometime around early January to mid-January, they're all in their homes and set up, technically outside their homes, and set up and online, and you'll see things light up everywhere. So it should be pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm super excited about it. So it's going to be really, really cool. GeoHey. Nice. Yeah, I think, I don't know how many people here were in Helium, but I'm sure a lot. So it's good to have all you guys here. Janutz, any idea how long the cord is for the GPS? Mike, do you remember that for the GPS?
It is on the FAQ page, if I'm not incorrect. But just to clarify, while I'm clicking real quick, just to clarify, you can use an SMA to SMA extender cable if the cable is not long enough. I'm looking right now on our fact page, which you can find under the Bring Your Own Device Station section. We added a GeoSigner fact under there, and it says the antenna cable is 3 meters long. So
9 feet.
9 feet. And if you need to extend it, you can use an SMA, female SMA to male SMA. But remember that we do have a warning there. Don't go over about 10 meters or about 30 feet. You'll have some degradation of the signal. It'll cause more problems than you want. So it can't be too long, but 30 feet's pretty darn long, actually.
Yeah, that is a long way.
You wrap it around yourself many times.
Exactly. Hey man, will we get the dongle status on the dashboard? Are you referring to if it's getting a signal or just a granted versus not granted status?
Oh, I like this dual screen thing because I can actually see current while I keep scrolled back on the other one. Signal.
Oh, signal.
Yeah,
Probably need to have a signal on there.
There's dashboard changes coming. You will know whether everything's online and working properly. You'll be able to see that at a glance. And we've had some discussions about how to best show GeoSigner status and everything. Basically, if the station's online, the GeoSigner is working. But we also probably want to make it context specific because you don't want to look at an approved device like the HiFix device and see GeoSigner there, because then you're like, what does the GeoSigner matter to me? It doesn't. So maybe some context specific visibility. If you're running a BYOD, it shows it. If not, you don't.
Yeah. But yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so we're in the stages now of essentially designing this whole upgrade. So I'm glad you brought it up. I assume it will be on there, but I made a note now, so I will make sure it's on there. Thank you. And then let's see what we have next. Fabio, about the coverage, do you plan to add any mechanism to push people to deploy stations in specific areas, similar to superhexes in GeoNet? So we will have something like that coming when we see, and kind of based on customer feedback, we will implement some sort of regional bounties to essentially encourage deployment in the areas where we really need it. So that's something we're evaluating right now, how to do that in the best way possible. But it will come.
All right. Tiku.
Speaker and Basa. Is it possible to project wings minted by the end of year one of mainnet? It will be possible, because when we finalize the tokenomics, it will have the release schedule and everything on there. So you will be able to see that.
Although remember, yeah, that's going to be minted, not necessarily given out to the miners, because we've discussed before there could be like a recycling thing or something, because not every hex can be rewarded. There's hexes over ocean. Obviously, there's going to be hexes that just aren't covered in certain cases. North Pole, South Pole, probably. I don't know. Get your stations out there. So some of those may not be distributed, but yes, be minted.
Any pics of the GeoSigner? Mike, that's interesting since we just had a conversation.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, so I'm just going to let Atomic Dream Crusher hang on that one, and maybe something will come here shortly.
Maybe.
We don't know yet. Let's see. Will the mainnet launch coincide with the delivery of the new miners, or is time independent of this? It's not like based on that, so it will not coincide just because of that. But most likely, the new miners, it would be nice to deliver them first, the pre-orders. Fabio, I'm reading. Yeah, I'm reading. It's a lot to read, so I'm just reading it.
I'll skip to the next one real quick while you read. OC, please, how can I be part of the team? Well, you're kind of already part of the team if you are an ambassador. But as far as the official team, right now we're actually pretty good. We're always obviously looking for standout individuals in certain areas that can really benefit the business. One place we may expand in the future is moderation, but really don't have any plans at this exact moment. I have told other people, so I'll be open about this here. If there is a possibility that you're interested in moderation in the future, the best thing you can probably do is be active in the community, be responsive and helpful when people ask questions. Trust me, we take note of every individual that stands out amongst others, and we kind of keep a short list. So if we do have the need to expand in that direction, that will be something we're probably going to leverage. How good they've been. Robin can probably speak to whether we have any other areas in the future for development, business, something like that.
Yeah, let me answer Fabio first, then I can get to that. So,
Okay.
obviously, it's really cool that you work at Eurocontrol, and we've been, we know Eurocontrol has their own little separate feed, as well as the FAA has a smaller feed. So while we don't know if we need, from a quality perspective, that many antennas, we do want enough redundancy, but we also want to be able to cover on enough granularity around airports and specific areas. And for example, what we've gotten from one of our data buyers is a comparison to one of the largest networks out there. And we see that even in areas where they are supposed to have really good coverage, we actually have much better coverage simply because the stations are more optimized. But then the goal really of this network is adding the security and essentially the accuracy of the networks, thanks to the new proof of location that's coming to all the devices, and the cryptographic chip that's embedded in all the devices. We can validate where the data is coming from. So that's more on the quality side. There will be in some areas too high of a redundancy. That's why we're looking now on the reward formula on essentially balancing it out more for like the really good providers, even in saturated areas, more balanced rewards. Because there will be some areas, if your antenna is not amazing, that maybe in the long run, it's maybe not going to be worth it, just to be honest. So that's what we're balancing. But we do think high redundancy is important, but also when you get into, obviously in the US, it's way further along with the, let's say the drone industry and the advanced air mobility segment. For both of those segments, you're going to need more density, and you're going to need higher reliability and security and lower latency on the network. And that's where the density comes in, and it's going to be a big benefit versus just having more scarcely covered areas. But Fabio, I'm totally open to hear more questions. This is a really good question, and I hope I answered some of it.
Awesome.
Mike, sorry, I was reading when you were answering. So which question did you go into?
It's OC, the next one. I just spoke about from like the moderation and side of the team, and the fact that we're pretty good overall, but maybe you could provide any insight as far as, do we have anybody we're looking for particularly that would fill a certain niche in the company?
Yeah, I mean, on the like the tech side, the development side, business development side, marketing side, now we're pretty good. But as the community grows, we will always look to expand the community-facing team. And I would just say, like, the best way of doing that, if a project is something you enjoy and you're being really helpful over time and you're just a good participant in a project, that would be someone we look at first before trying to hire some outsider to necessarily help with that. So right now, OC, there's nothing immediate, but not to say that there won't be something soon, because now the community is growing quite fast, and we know before too long we're probably going to need some more help.
That's how you know Robin was really focused on Fabio, because he like responded with very similar comment that I did from a community perspective.
Yeah. Sorry.
No,
Yeah,
it's all good.
I was reading. Fabio asked such a in-depth question. I just wanted to really think about it a little bit.
No, it's good. I mean, we
great.
came up with the same answer, so at least we're aligned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Great mind thinks alike, or poor minds think alike. I don't know which one is.
Yeah, whichever side we're on. Atomic Dream Crusher. Hey, also, can we get access to the GPS data feed? I would love to use it for my Stratum 1 NTP server for my network. Huh. That's a good question. Here's what I'm going to suggest. Unless Robin wants to field this one, I'm going to suggest you put it on the feature request site and make a suggestion. And even if it's not highly upvoted, we'll still review it. And maybe it's something we can work into the system if it makes sense. I do like the idea.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Unfortunately, I do not know what a Stratum 1 NTP server is, but
he wants to run a time server on his own network. Oh. So could he use the GPS data feed to have that real-time time sync instead of relying on somebody else?
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting. 120 posted a link. Let me look at the link. Dev team composition.
You don't want to. Yeah. Was that the question about that we were talking about? Because do we want to answer that on this or the AMA?
I don't know. I mean, I can't answer it now. I can answer it, I guess, again on the AMA, and people that are not here can hear it there.
There you go.
But so on the dev team composition, now we have 5 full-time devs on site. Most of them, they're all full stack, but with more of a backend focus. And we have a data scientist full-time. We have freelancers, an agency that we just now started with on the front end that is going to be essentially on a retainer to speed up the deliverables on the community-facing side. We will hire one more developer, most likely next week or the week after. And then on the dev side, I think that's going to have to be there for a little bit until everyone's on board, and we'll see what else we need. Then on the marketing side, we have 2 people. We have, obviously, on the community side, we have 2 or 3 people. On the business development sales side, a couple of people. So that's kind of the composition. But we have mainly been focusing, a lot of things are going on kind of behind the scenes, mainly on the back end. A lot of focus on the B2B side of the business, essentially optimizing the pipeline for the customers and formatting the data the way they want it. But now there will be more focus on the community-facing and platform side moving forward as we've expanded there. So hope that's a good enough question, 120. Or answer. Keep saying question.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think like any startup, you have that whole seesaw thing where there's priorities and the whole seesaw leans one direction and it kind of gets really tilted that way. And then you have other priorities and you lean back the other way, but then you give up time on the other side. I think right now is where we're trying to find that balance and handle both sides. So the seesaw is not as much fun because it stays even, but at least it's maybe scales. Scales is better than a seesaw. Anyway, the scales are even and we're handling both sides more evenly than we have in the past. I think it's always been a battle to try to make sure we handle things as they come up in our priorities. So it's been a back and forth thing. We're going to be better.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely challenging, especially as I think the 3 people have joined within the last month. So obviously, people need a little bit of time to get on board and get up to speed and understand the tech stack and everything we're working on and prios. So that's been quite recent. So I really foresee within the next 1-2 months, we have way more bandwidth. So there's going to be way more stuff coming out.
Yeah.
Let's see where we are.
Doc Brown. I'm guessing you're joking about a geosigner extension cable using LMR 600. That would be interesting. Yes, that's an option. You wouldn't be flexing it around any corners or anything, but if you want a straight shot, there you go.
New record, by the way, Mike. 59 people now.
I don't believe a record until I see 75. Are we thinking, Indian Dark Horse is asking, are we thinking of any branding merchandise? I was looking for a sticker to put one such on my boring white pie case.
We are. And by the way, because I posted way long ago, actually Mike reminded me, which is great. We are sending a hoodie to whoever was the first one to deploy in Wyoming. So that person is getting a hoodie. If you're in here, let me know. But we will come out with some cool swag, some stickers. Some will be for giveaways and for different different competitions and stuff. So it will come. We'll definitely have some cool stuff for everybody.
Slim, in the last 2 weeks, there have been frequent problems with the rewards of tokens in DevNet. What kind of problems are these? Did you solve these problems? So, I can at least speak to some. It appears, investigation is still ongoing, literally while we're doing this call. We might be running into a throttling problem in DevNet. For those that aren't aware, I posted long ago in Discord saying literally DevNet gives us this ability to kind of mimic what we'll see in mainnet to make sure everything runs properly, except that DevNet has a few limitations. One of those was obviously wallet applications, and the support for DevNet, to be honest, just kind of sucks. It's not there, and I understand why, but it makes it more difficult for participants to check their rewards because they have to use literally one app. Phantom's really the only one that works well, and even then there's some issues. The other problem was there's rate limiting on DevNet that doesn't happen on mainnet. Obviously, they expect this is the area where you're going to test some stuff before deploying it. It makes it more difficult when your testing is more of a large scale like ours and feeding rewards to a lot of test wallets. And apparently we have run into that. Obviously, we wouldn't have that problem on mainnet, but we do have the problem on testnet. The other issue that has been brought up is somehow we have reverted to a host owner wallet split problem, and that is being investigated as well. But the primary focus was to figure out what's going on with rate limiting. And the good news is this gives us an opportunity to enhance our system, to make it more robust. So in the off chance that some kind of rate limiting does happen on mainnet in the future, we will have checks and balances in place to identify that and to try to reissue at a slower rate for rewards. So I know it can be frustrating at times, but this is, again, 100% the reason we should be on DevNet at this moment, to solve these problems, to identify new potential problems and work out code to handle them in the future. You don't want this to happen on mainnet if possible.
Well said. No, I agree 100%. So it will fix it. It will probably just need a couple of more days. But thanks for bringing it up. Let's see. So I guess everyone wants swag. Seems like a overall support for that.
Yes.
Fabio, about coverage over the oceans, are you planning to buy the data from Arion? Not at this stage, mainly because the data over the oceans, unless it's very specific use cases, is not really that valuable. It's more valuable from a map perspective if you want to allow people to just see where the planes are at all times. But from a customer point of view, it's really the beginning and the end of the plane trip, so to speak. That's important so they can complete the trip. In between there is not of as much importance. Plus, buying it from Arion is millions of dollars, so don't think it's the best spent money at this stage.
Kind of along the same vein, Dorian is asking about the ocean coverage. So just to clarify, Dorian, I wasn't saying that if I misspoke if I did. I wasn't trying to say that ocean hexes are not rewarded. What I'm trying to say is a vast amount of ocean hexes are in areas that cannot be reached unless there's islands around. Even then, they have a limited range, right? So there's a tremendous amount of ocean. What is it? 70% of the earth is covered in water. Yes, you can cover the seas, like Dead Sea. You can cover the Great Lakes in Minnesota area. You can cover the Gulf of Mexico pretty well, actually. But when you get out into the middle of the oceans, there's very little coverage because there's very little opportunity to have a station planted somewhere if it's not floating on a buoy or something. So
Yeah.
the point is there's a lot of ocean hexes that will not be rewarded. Not that if you have an ocean hex, you won't be rewarded. That's not the case. There are plenty of people with ocean hexes and they are rewarded.
Yeah. Dorian, did that make sense as a clarification? Just let us know so we don't say something that people take the wrong way. But yeah, every hex has the same amount of rewards as long as you can reach it. Thanks, Fabio. Wingbits cap.
With the dongle.
With
Well,
the dongle.
No, maybe, probably not. Just to reiterate, the dongles are kind of at cost, including shipping and everything else. So sending a cap might not be the smartest for us.
Except the free dongles, they are at minus cost.
Yes.
60 and a half. Yeah, 61. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Don't jinx it, people.
Yeah. Now one person left. As soon as I said 61, it went on 60. It's my fault.
It's like turning on the light and the roaches all spread. You can't spotlight the number.
No, it's like Fight Club, but here we don't talk about the number instead.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need a private chef on launch day or other events in Stockholm. That's actually not a bad idea. Maybe you should open. Which country are you based in, Andy Pandy? And what type of, I guess, cuisine do you prefer cooking?
Well, he is in Sweden, if I am not wrong.
Oh, really? Yeah. Maybe I'm just not remembering. That would be nice and easy.
Yeah, private chef. Yeah, I can use a private chef in my house. You want to fly to the U.S.? All right. No lie. I know side trip here, but for my wife's for our anniversary one year, I actually had thought about having a private chef come. The downside I didn't realize, I knew it was going to be expensive. Okay, but it was a major anniversary. I just thought, whatever, make her super happy. Turns out most of the private chefs that I could find are more of a, yes, we will be a chef for you. We will bring everything, but you have to choose from this very limited menu. And some of them were just basically, this is all we'll make. And I was like, I was hoping, I could get something I want. She could get something she wants, but no, it was basically, you both eat the same thing or you don't get us. And I was like, all right, cool. We never did that.
Nah. Yeah, I just, my dream and my dream for the future is to not have to cook.
I
just want someone come in once a week, make all the meals, put them in like a little Tupperware, and then I just heat it up. That's my dream.
I think they have services for that, don't they?
Maybe in the US. I can't find them in Sweden. Not very good anyway. Yeah. Also, I don't have enough money to spend on it yet.
Yeah, that's we'll always
maybe in the future.
Yeah, I mean, rice is cheap.
Yeah. Let's see. Brute force. Any new data buyers lately? So I can explain actually how the process usually works, and then I can go into the answer. So usually with all these customers, they tend to want a little bit of customization in how the data is sampled, what frames are included in the data, what they need, what they don't need, what areas, how they either if they have a custom API or if they want the historical data sets in a specific way. So usually how it starts is you get all the information, how they want the data, and you essentially have to set that product up separately, which, thanks to Alex, has built an extremely good data pipeline. We actually now can do that pretty quick. And then after that's set up and you send them a sample and they say this is correct, then you start a test phase. And usually they want to test the data for at least a few weeks. And if they buy from another network, they want to compare to make sure they get enough value out of also using, for example, us as a complement at this stage, since we're not big enough to be a sole provider yet. So you start at pilot phases. We've started more pilot phases, but they're not out of pilot phase yet. So that's kind of the answer, but I wanted to kind of explain why it starts as a pilot phase. Let's see.
Fabio just fired him off. That's good.
Yeah, Fabio has great questions. Is there any technology emerging synergy coming from the collaboration with GeoNet at this point or plan for the future, or will the collaboration remain in the format that is now? So there will be some collaboration. One is kind of like a very unique thing, but it would actually, I think, make a lot of sense for like a Eurocontrol on airport. So Fabio, if you don't mind, I would actually like to get your opinion on it. So I can answer you if you just open a ticket. I would like to ask you this since you work in the space. But then also what's pretty cool about the partnership is that, you know, when we have this very accurate proof of location and you identify, essentially there's a lot of spoof data. It's kind of a problem for the industry. We are in a much better position to actually see where the plane actually is versus what the spoof data says it is, thanks to the partnership. So that's a pretty interesting thing. And when it comes to, obviously, if we need to do MLAT calculations later on, it's pretty beneficial having an exact location versus having a self-reported location. So those are some cool things.
Yeah. Gunter. I think that units show up in hexes over the ocean might not have rewards enabled, but units on the coastline would be okay. But that's just me. So yes and no. Obviously, if someone is attempting to game or cheat, however you want to call it, by having a station that is out in the middle of the ocean, and then trying to somehow provide data for that, yeah, that'll be flagged. But keep in mind, we've had multiple instances where we thought, why is someone out in the middle of the ocean? And then you zoom, and it turns out there is a small set of islands, or just a couple islands, out in the middle of nowhere. And people have a station on that, and the data is coming from there. So ocean coverage is fine. Hexes within the ocean are fine as long as they make sense. Like if you are on a landmass, if you're on a shipping freight liner or something and you have a unit, then obviously we would have to discuss something with you because you're constantly moving. But other than that, oil rigs is another great example. You don't see a landmass when you zoom in, say in the Gulf of Mexico, but you can easily have a station set up there that is providing coverage for a good portion of the Gulf of Mexico. And it appears they're in the ocean, but they're not. So if it makes sense and someone's not gaming, great. If they are gaming, then we will catch them and they will be removed.
Yep. Let's see. Donnie, good locations. Is a good location one near a busy airport, or would location in the middle of nowhere with little air traffic overhead also work? So there's two answers to this. And so first of all, right now, the way everything's set up, an empty location is by far the best. If you can get that. One thing that will come is that we will, and we're not finished yet, so this is just kind of like the basic version of it. We will implement higher rewards for lower altitude around airports, because the airport coverage is the most important. This will in no way hurt anyone else that's not near an airport. But if you get lower altitude data points, most likely be 1 or 2 levels, so maybe below 2,000 feet, and then on ground level is the highest, maybe some type of multiplier or something. So if you can get a location near a busy airport, and if you can get a clear line of sight to the airport where you see recorded planes essentially driving around on the tarmac, that will be a really good location. So that's kind of the answer. So right now, empty is best. Later on, empty or airport will be best.
Yeah. So if you're forward looking and you want to really set it up, and you got two options right now. If you don't want to order two stations and you had to make a choice, I might go for the airport line of sight if I had that option over an empty location. Because remember, realistically, there are empty areas now on the map. And I think there was a question later, perhaps, that like some people are earning more in those locations. That's true. But remember, over time, those will likely fill up as well. So there will be multiple stations where there was only one. If you look at the history of the project, it's already happened over time. There's even some of the older videos that we put out. You can see like, oh, look, there was one station. Like right now, there's one in Wyoming. There's a couple on the border, but there's only technically one in Wyoming. I would suspect 6 months from now, there will probably be multiple in Wyoming. So those rewards will end up getting shared. Whereas the airport, if you're there and you've got ground coverage or very low altitude coverage, that's something that won't change. You will see that. And the amount of people that can get that can be limited. I can tell you from my experience in the major airport near me, it will be challenging for someone to have a really good setup down there due to the way the airport is laid out. You'd really need kind of two stations to do it. And it's all industrial and hotels around it. So you have to convince somebody to let you put it up. So those are pretty sought after locations.
Yeah, exactly. But, I think it's fair that the harder something is to achieve, the more you should get rewarded for it. So that's why we feel like it's from a project perspective in terms of like commercial value and bringing more value back into the community, it's really important. But also from a simple rewards fairness, like way of thinking, I think it's also fair to reward higher on something that is more valuable and harder to get. Donnie, I noticed some installations earn much larger rewards than others. Why is that? So most likely it's the stations that either cover areas that are empty, or if they're an area kind of that is saturated, they have a reach in one direction where they don't compete with anyone and they manage to be number one and get 100% of the rewards in all those hexagons. So right now, most likely it's an empty area. If you see someone's earning a lot in an area that's super saturated, where there's like hundreds of antennas within the reach, that would be weird. Then you should report it. But I don't think that's an issue anymore. We had one that was kind of odd. We fixed it. But yeah, empty areas earn a lot at the moment.
Going back up the list real quick.
Sorry.
Atomic, yes, the stages are recorded. It'll end up on YouTube generally about 48 hours or so.
And then I saw I made
Rotor
Rocket.
Yep.
So smaller regional airports, I would say it depends on the customer. For most customers, it's not as much value maybe as like a major international airport. But from a rewards perspective, it'll be the same. And it's still better to have them than not to have them, because most other competitors won't maybe have so many of these airports. So having them is definitely a nice thing to have.
Wouldn't it also help for, let me ask you a question, Robin. When you talk about some of these jets where you have leasees, and people are using these jets to move around to meetings and business things and everything else, or whatever fancy events they're going to, don't those go into major airports, or do they also go into smaller regional airports from time to time?
No, they go to smaller ones. And so for like specific use cases, for example, a financial institution wanting to track where all the rich people fly, try to figure out what they're going to do. Well, obviously, it would be super nice having the private jet to a smaller regional airport just to kind of see, because if they fly there a lot, well, that's kind of odd. Why are they flying there a lot? So that would be a lot of value in having that.
Yeah, I was curious because I've seen like in major airports, they have like a whole, I don't even know what you call it, but like a private side. Like I know at Atlanta, there's like a whole separate area with hangars for like private jets and everything. They have their own sky lounge-ish kind of place, and you access it differently than the normal airport, but it's still part of the same big complex. So I didn't know if how many people actually
I
use it, or if it's just like those are the really rich people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of experience flying private jets, but I I think they just kind of land wherever they want, and if they need to go to a small area, they just go there. I mean, because I saw this documentary about, I think Walmart has, what is it, like 50 private jets, and
Wow.
they only got it because they need to fly to these tiny airports where the stores are, where they can't travel commercially, they
Oh
say.
yeah, yeah.
So obviously, in that aspect, they fly into the tiny airports all the time.
Cool.
Do
Sky Glass. Can you give a brief overview of the mainnet transition schedule? Apologies if this was already asked, answered, but I came in late. Huh.
So mainnet transition schedule. We kind of touched on it early. So what it's looking like now is early Q1 next year, and the reason for that is that we have some adjustments we need to make to the tokenomics to make it more balanced. And I think that what we're looking at will not hurt anyone, but it will be much more fair, and I think better overall for everybody. We also need to secure the network with all the dongles sent out. That's going to be an important thing. Would prefer to have the new devices sent out before mainnet. And we still want to feel really good about that everything is working as it should before going to mainnet, simply because we think it's the right thing to do, is making sure that we do everything we can to make sure it's solid and not just rush it. So that's why it's not December. That's why it's going to be early Q1 instead. Thanks, Lim. Perfect. Thanks, Fabio. Looking forward to that ticket. How about the middle of the desert? So, you know what? That's a great question. Because I saw we had someone from Qatar come into the chat today. So some of those areas are tricky. I mean, if obviously we have some coverage, for example, in Australia as well, on the coasts. How do you get in the middle? Maybe in the future there will have to be some type of more of a self-sustaining station with like a solar panel and a Starlink connection and essentially a battery. But if you have any ideas for middle of the desert, let me know. I'm not 100% sure yet, especially if it's completely non-populated areas.
I see where you answered Atomic.
Oh,
yeah. I only missed the last one because I listened instead of participating, so I didn't record it. My bad. This time we are.
So now I'm okay. So Skyglass, Fabio, Yanal asked about the desert. So Yanal, feel free to come with some suggestions. Tesla, okay, I answered Atomic there. Let's see, Cello. You mentioned in early stage that the ground data is diamond-like. Will this data in the future get more rewards, or will it stay as is? Okay, Robin just answered my question. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
FS333. By the way, hey, Raptor Mining. FS333 says, hey, I ordered a Wingbits miner. I like calling it a station. I know it's miner and we're in crypto, but I don't know. I feel like station sounds better. For January, how many are being made? I don't actually have an answer. Robin?
Yes. So there will be different batches. In the first batch, I believe Mike from Hyfix said 1,500. So we are pretty close to that, I think, in sales. But then there will be another batch, but this is the first batch they're ordering.
Well, I'm going to ask the obvious question. Someone's probably going to ask, does that mean the price will go up on the next batch, or do we know? Not that we control that pricing, but I don't know if you'd heard.
No, I don't know. I know they have the initial price that's they say is a little lower now. So I don't know what the plan is, if the second batch is at the same price or if it's higher. I don't know. That's more of a question for them, honestly.
Yep.
By the way, I have.
You got how much?
I have 5 more minutes.
We're basically down to the bottom anyway. Lakaka, has there been any talk about when the free GeoSigner dongles will be? Oh, it scrolled while I was reading. Will be delivered. I missed the beginning. Soon. I think as Robin already mentioned earlier, very soon we will probably be reaching out and collecting the shipping information. Other information will come out as well. Just stay tuned for next couple weeks, and that should answer your question.
Yeah, we'll start collecting the addresses and all that within the next 14 days. And then after we collect that, we'll give it a little time. Then we'll start shipping pretty shortly after that.
Where can I purchase a geosigner? Oof.
You can unfortunately no longer purchase it. It was limited to the build your own batch that I think ended
October 13th
I don't remember when
at midnight.
October 13th. Yeah, that's when it ended. So unfortunately, it's no longer available. So now it's only approved hardware. And the first one is the one manufactured by Hyfix. And you can buy it through them or their resellers. Johnny, are you shooting for a certain price for token, or will we just have to wait for the market to decide? So I don't know. I mean, obviously, you have to decide on a price to launch it on. But I don't know that yet. And even if I did, I couldn't say, unfortunately. But I really don't know yet. That's going to be a discussion with exchanges and investors, and it's not a me decision only. FO, I'm approximately 5 miles from an international airport. Any antenna DB recommendations to improve efficiency? Lazy question. Oh, Mike, this is probably a Mike question.
I just use the normal 5.5, 6. I mean, they're all basically the same anyway. You could argue that you could use like a 3 so you have a better area above you, but anybody that's actually familiar will know that like a 5.5 dBi antenna does have lobes that come upwards that will still handle planes flying almost directly above you. So don't worry about range, especially if you're only 5 miles from the airport. Don't worry about trying to cover perfectly above you. Just get a normal antenna. I think most of the community is really happy with Flight Aware antenna or the ADS-B exchange antenna or the one from Pi Hut. They all perform reasonably well within the same realm.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Doc Brown. Essentially, would it be advantageous to allow multiple locations in hexes that contain an airport? Blah, blah, blah. So if we did this, it would be essentially like on a specific airport, if we really needed it, we would have to essentially assign a really small bounty areas in specific locations around that airport. But if we did that, we would have to make sure that essentially that doesn't ruin it for the person that actually claimed the hexagon, because then that would be unfair. There is ways to do this without interfering with the original miner. And essentially, if you can claim maybe this bounty, you don't compete necessarily with the other person, but you get, as long as you get that coverage in that bounty, you will get rewarded for claiming it, essentially, the bounty. So maybe in some circumstances, but we don't have that outlined yet in detail.
And down to the last minute. I mean, I have to ask because I put it up there, but like, Robin, do you prefer a truck, an SUV, or a car as your mode of transport?
Truck and SUV or car. So it's kind of funny. So my wife thinks I'm a redneck because I had a big truck when I lived in the US. I really like my truck. It was awesome. I really like it. If I could have a big truck in Sweden, I probably would.
Yeah.
But SUV too. I just like a big car. It just feels nicer driving it, and it feels like if you get into a wreck, you kind of win.
Okay.
You know?
By that logic, I just drive a semi truck. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, big cars for the win. It says gas is, what is it? $10 a gallon in Sweden. So probably don't have a big one here.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't want you to drive gas.
That's like $10 US, basically.
Yeah, $10 US per gallon, I think it is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Public transportation, it would be.
Yeah, public transport is really good here in Stockholm. So now, actually, when I moved to Stockholm, I got so many parking tickets because you can't park. So I just sold my car, and now I'll take public transport, and it's way better.
Wow. All right. Well, we have used up the time allotted for this stage.
Yeah. And awesome. There's a lot of people here. Really appreciate it. It's super fun. Thanks for all the great questions. Fabio, thanks for coming in asking questions as well. But really appreciate it. I mean, it's super fun having these stages. And it's so much fun to see all the new people, all the recurring people. It's awesome. So appreciate the support. Super bullish on where this project is going here soon. Like there's so much cool stuff in the works. Next year it's gonna be epic. I have no other word for it. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.